Hello, my name is Rag, and today we'll be creating a very dark 2018 Netflix interview kind of look in DaVinci Resolve. In 2018, Netflix posted loads of crime series, documentaries that were very dark, and often you see that these interviews are often quite clean. They're often lit, often by one big key light, and there's a lot of contrast on the dark side of the frame. Yeah, they're just quite dramatic, and that's something that we're going to be going over today. We'll be using the Digifilm Power Grade in DaVinci Resolve, and the tutorial that you're about to see is from a coaching call that we did with a student trying to create this particular type of look. If you'd like to see your footage to be used in tutorials such as this one in the future, you can download Digifilm and submit your footage in the Discord server. So without further ado, let's hop into DaVinci Resolve and go from this before and after and create this cool Netflix look. Hello Rooster Motion. So we're going to be looking at your clip today, and I know you mentioned this was short. You said C-Log3, but I believe you mean S-Log3, and you want a kind of Netflixy style for this. So I'll try and show you what maybe I would do and things that can maybe help you, because usually I think that maybe the type of look we're going to try and go for today is quite a bit of a darker kind of look. So yeah, let's have a look at this. So we have your clip here. I'll go over to my gallery, I'll apply Digifilm 2.5, and this is, to be fair, it's already looking pretty decent. But we're going to go over to our CSD, and I'm guessing you're going to be using, if you're using S-Log3, you're going to be using S-Gamma3. So I'll leave that as that, and S-Log3. And already we can see a before and an after, and in my honest opinion, this is already looking really good. If you want it to be more Netflixy, you can always add cinebars or output blanking here, and kind of constrict the view and bring a bit more attention to your viewer. So aspect ratio is also always awesome to kind of bring a little bit of mood into your clip, but for today we'll just we'll keep it as it was here. So the image is looking good, and I've found a hero frame, so whenever you start grading, always try and scrub through your footage and just find a nice hero frame, which is basically a frame that kind of encapsulates everything that you're going to grade. So I'm going to go to my main object here and simply, well, we can go over to our camera white balance, and I think the camera white balance is okay. Maybe it's a little bit on the warm side, and maybe we can cool it down ever so slightly, just so we can get a little bit of separation within his skin. And I think that's okay. But now we're going to go to the main object. You can see we've isolated skin a lot better than if it was a warmer clip, because if it was a warmer clip originally, before we've done our color separation, his skin would have fallen into the same realm as the sky, as the wall behind him, basically. So I can increase the width ever so slightly. Denoise, blur it. Just trying to see where his hair falls into, because it doesn't seem to be picking it up. Ah, that's why. Okay. So it's because of the L soft, basically. But that doesn't matter too much. We can soften that up ever so slightly. So we've now isolated his skin, and maybe we don't really want to do too much to his skin, but it's there for if we want to push colours into the rest of the image. So for this particular one, Netflix often has teal and orange, you know, very blue kind of look. So we can always push in a little bit of blues. Well, it's quite a fair amount, but a bit of blues. I'm a big fan of teal and orange, so we'll try and go for that kind of look. So we've pushed in blues here, and it's looking good. And then we can push the skin to kind of match that. We can go to our vector scope and see where the skin kind of falls, and right now it's just above this skin indicator line. If you can't see the skin indication line, come over here and press show skin indicator, and now I can maybe go over to my gamma and shift this downwards like this. And if I wanted it more saturated or less saturated, I can do that. You don't want to push it too much. Here's fine. If you're wanting a little bit more oomph in his skin, we can go over to color slicing and go up to my saturation and start adding a bit of saturation this way, and you can see that his skin just fills in so much more nicely, rather than if I was to add saturation the normal way. Same with density, you can see his skin starts filling up quite well. And you can use HDR as well, maybe bring down, maybe not the lights, but maybe the highlights. So if we zoom into his face, you can see with the highlights, you can see just that ever so slight bit on his forehead coming down. Don't need to push it too hard at all, and go from there. And I'll maybe raise the shadows of his face. You don't want to overdo this, just ever so slightly, like this. So with the main object, we have a before, well, main object and background. Let's do that. We have a before and an after. You can see how much nicer his skin looks, and it has a lot more life to it. So I think that's looking pretty nice. And you can stop there if you so wished, but we can go further, of course. So how to kind of enhance this even further is I might need to make another row actually, and we can turn on gradient vignette, and that'll help to vignette the image like this. But we're going to do more vignetting overall. It's using gradients. So we're going to really not super darken out this part of the image, but just like darken it enough so where there's a lot more emphasis on our character here. So we have one here, and then maybe we'll make another node. We can probably do this in a parallel node structure, but for now I'm just going to do it this way. Probably darken this side a little bit more as well. Already we have a before and an after. You can see we're bringing more emphasis to the character here, and that is kind of what we want. And we can also, of course, we're going to brighten him up as well. So what I can do is I'll make one more to start at the top here, darken that up ever so slightly, and just feather it out like this. Maybe not as harsh. So before and then after, I think that's looking pretty good. Overall, I'm going to make one more node, make a circular power window, and just simply, I'm going to go over to my left and just raise it ever so slightly. So before and after. And I'm just going to feather that out, making his face the primary focus. So before and after. Now his face is standing out a lot more than it was before. One thing I do love to add in a lot of my things is I think flares. I love flares, and some people find it too much. And yeah, you might find that this flare is a little too much. But personally, I do like it. However, if you find it too much, but you still maybe want to add a little bit of flare or texture to the image, you can just keep it slightly out of frame like this, and then there's just an ever so slight glow to the top right. So you have a before and an after, and in my opinion, that just makes it look really high production. In my honest opinion, but that's very subjective to me, because I know most people, especially when I post stuff on Instagram regarding when I add flares, everyone's like, get rid of the flare. So here, I think it works, in my opinion. Then we can finally go back into our global node finally, and go to our curves, normal curves here, and start actually doing a nice global look to the image. So remember, this is the highlights, the middle is the midtones, bottom is shadows. So before and then after, maybe the shadows are a little too dark now, so we're going to make it like a fourth point probably. Midtones is usually where the skin falls, so you can see his skin's really dark now, skin's really bright here. So you don't want to overdo it, but just bring this up ever so slightly. So you have a before and an after. Overall, I think this is looking good. So you want to make it a bit more teal and orange. Go over to your gamma, shift in oranges, and then go over to your lift, shift in blues. And you have this really strong teal and orange kind of look. And maybe I'd even darken the image ever so slightly more. And then you can play through your actual interview and go from there. But we've gone from a before and an after, and I think that's looking good. I would even maybe darken up the image even more. You know what I mentioned, go to output blanking, and you have this really kind of almost looks anamorphic with the reflection of the planets here. It kind of almost looks a bit distorted, but I think that's looking pretty good. And you can get rid of some of the colors in the blacks by using black set, so it's very subtle, but that's about it. I can add a bit more contrast to finish the image, shift the pivot towards the right ever so slightly, and we have a before and an after. I'm a fan. You shot this really well, lit it pretty well. We could only really do the skin separation because we adjusted the color white balance beforehand, before we did our main object and background separation. So remember, white balance is key. Always just think about the colors, because often when you're shooting against white backgrounds or grey walls, etc., if the light you're using is quite warm, then when you're trying to do color separation, it's going to be very difficult, because the skin and the walls are going to fall into the same realm, so you won't be able to separate them. And and then you'll have to like magic masking, but you don't want to do all of that. You just want it to be a nice fast quick grade and a nice easy fun grade to do. So yeah, color white balance was really important, and then using the density tool and the HDR tool to really add a bit more life to his skin. That was also key. And then we just added blues and teals, and then we went from there. So I hope that was helpful, and yeah, thank you.